first thing in the morning in the Louvre, and everybody runs to the Mona Lisa, but it was pretty much the first one in the museum today. So, but look, I'm on my way to make a little video. Here's my girl, beautifully restored, back over just about 5 weeks ago. This is the next Delacroix that's going to be restored, the last of the Delacroix. I cannot wait to see that one. It's going to take forever because it's so large. This is the gorgeous Colufel, which is basically the employee smoking porch. This part of the Louvre, I'm in the Denon wing. And in the Denon wing, straight ahead of us to the left and where I'm standing is 19th century. And over there on the right is 16th century. So that is part of the Grand Gallery. And we're going down to the very, very end of it, as far as we could go. So many of these things. This is one of my favorite rooms, but saving that for another time. It's a beautiful sunny morning, but chilly. It is more like October right now. Oh, thank goodness it's open. There's always a concern that sometimes they close this part back here. But this is the very end of the Grand Gallery. So this part of the Grand Gallery, although it dates to 16th century and Henry IV, this part of the Grand Gallery was actually taken apart, lifted up, and redone by Napoleon III in the 19th century because the road below us, so right below us is Guichet, and that is the road. And so what Napoleon III did is he wanted you to be able to drive through here. And this feather, the opposite side there, was first, part of it was done by Napoleon I, and then it was finished by Napoleon III. He did the part on the right, which is the Richelieu wing. But where we are, you can see the road goes underneath us. So this part of the building was picked up, taken apart, and moved. Some of the things they saved in here and rebuilt it. But everything in here is Italian. This is the master Italian collection of the Louvre. About 85% of this belonged to the kings, starting with Francois Ier and Louis XIV. Oh, great. It is not open. Well, what I was going to show you today is tell you a little story about something that happened on June 11th, 1939. And it happened down in there. So this is the Denon wing, and at the very end of that is where the Grand Gallery used to extend. But because of Napoleon III and what he did, he changed it. And so that big room that you could see straight through there and past the guard was the Salle des Saisons, and the Salle des Saisons was what Napoleon III built to have for his government, because he was living in the Tuileries, and he thought, well, this is great, I could just have my office just down the way and I could just walk through there. It then became the room where they held all of the Rubens. So the amazing Rubens paintings. Bonjour. And so it was down here, at the very end of it. We actually can't even go into the room, which is where this happened, because it's closed off and they've turned it into part of some of the libraries and also some of the offices of the Louvre. And it was way down there on June 11th that a gentleman came in here named Serge Claude Bogusslavsky, known as Bog. He was a Russian immigrant that had come to Paris and had lived here, And he came here for about 15 days every single day. And the paintings used to be hanging on the wall. Now you can see how they're hanging on the wall in these metal bars almost. But they used to hang on the wall with just basically steel threads, basically. And this wire, he would come in every day and pick it off. He'd pick it up a little bit, this painting by Watteau, and pick it up and just lift it with his shoulder. It was a very tiny painting. I'll show you what it looks like. And he just kind of kept twisting the wire a little bit till on the 15th day, on June 11th, 1939, he came in, lifted it off, basically cut it really quickly, picked it off the wall, put it in under his shirt, and walked through the rooms. The name of the room back then was the Salle de la Case, Schlichting, and Schlichting was, he was another Russian descendant that lived in Paris, and he had a massive art collection, and he also started the Galerie de Musée du Louvre across the street that is now being restored, and he had all of that done, and they had these rooms named after him. Well, so he walked through that room, he walked through the Rubens room, he walked up the steps, walked over here, and walked right out the door. Again, this is 28 years after the Mona Lisa is stolen, and he goes in here and does the same exact thing. So clearly the Louvre didn't get so good about their security. But on June 12th, again, here it is, a day after it happened, a young girl had come in that was giving a tour named Colette Tissier, and that day she said it was about 3:50 in the afternoon, and she said, where is the painting? And so they had figured out that they had seen it before. The guard that was there, the guard's name was Cesari. He was there from 3:35 to 3:50. He took a break, and they think that in between that time is when the painting had disappeared. Back then, they had one guard for every 4 rooms. They still, since the Mona Lisa, they still had it that the guards could only be retired military or police. Many of them were somewhat, had some sort of a disability. They didn't walk very well. They had a lot of issues, and so they had one guard for every 4 rooms. And so some of these rooms are pretty huge. It'd be like having one person in the Grand Gallery, and that's it. So he took the painting, walked out the door, and the reason he took it was because he felt that it had to have it wasn't restored correctly, and that he was going to be doing a better job at that. So it's pretty arrogant to think that. I'm standing here at this window, and they are finishing up. Oh great, the wall's coming in the back down. So they have been restoring the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel since November of 2021, I think it was, 2021. And they are they've finally finished with it. So they created all new statues up there at the top. Let me zoom in for you. All new statues up there at the top of the gentleman in marble. They restored the horses and the figures at the very, very top of it as well. This arc was created by Napoleon, of course. But they had made a huge concrete pad underneath it there. And so the other day when I came through here, they were breaking all of the concrete, and now it looks like they're scooping all of it out. So it was a massive project. It took quite a long time. But pretty fantastic that it's already done. I can't wait to be able to walk around it. They did a really fantastic job. And there, of course. A lot of people on these Facebook groups, all of them say, don't go to the pyramid, go downstairs to the carousel. So where you see the statue of the seated allegory there, if you go back on either side to the left or the right of the arc, you can go downstairs to basically what's the mall. And there is an entrance down there, but don't do that. Actually come up here to the pyramid, because down below it is one line. There is basically, the entrance could only handle one person at a time coming into security. It gets very, very narrow, and there's also large groups. So large groups of 30, 40 people come through there. And when those huge groups come through there, everybody else stops. So there is times that I have come down there with groups of friends, and you don't move for 20 or 30 minutes, and it takes 45 minutes to an hour to get in. If you go first thing in the morning and you get there at like 8:30 in the morning, a half an hour before the museum opens, that's the only way to do that entrance. A lot of times when I'm leaving the Louvre, the entrance is so long it bends around the corner twice. The pyramid up here, they've got it down. They know what they're doing. There's two security entrances there. You walk in that door, they start splitting people off to the other side. You go through, you scan your bags really quick. There's 2 escalators going down. It's really fast. So it's only a few minutes after 9 a.m. It's about 9:10, and already that entire line for 9 a.m., which is the left side, is already inside. So don't go don't go there, go to the end. Let's see, I was hoping maybe, nope, still not open. So we'll try it, and maybe we'll try to come, maybe I'll try to see if we could get back. But anyway, that's not where the painting is. So what happened though was on August 14th, Bog, as he was called, he decided to alert the press, and he told the press that something sensational was going to happen at the Hôtel de la Marine. He showed up with the painting 2 months after the theft with 4 lawyers, and he walked in, and I'll put some pictures here of what he looked like. He was very dapper, and he decided, I'm just going to show up and say, look what I did. I've returned it. How wonderful of me. And then he had written a manifesto, and he was going to come back to the Louvre. He was going to give them the painting, bring the painting back, hang it back up, leave this manifesto, and then go kill himself. And a friend of his, another artist, actually convinced him not to do that, and so he went to the police instead. On October of that same year, he went to court. He was sentenced to 2 years on October 10th, 1939, 2 years in jail, which when he did an appeal in December, they actually lengthened it to 4 years, so that wasn't really a good idea. But he did use industrial varnish on the painting, and so he did more damage to it than he thought he was helping it. The restorer at the time, when he looked at it, was like, this was horrible. What was he thinking? It was 1939, so if you have followed me for any amount of time, you know how obsessed I am with the 1939 and when they emptied the Louvre. And so in 1939, this painting was stolen at the end of the year. When it was returned, August 14th, that is just 14 days before they started to empty the Louvre. And when they did that, they put the painting on display. So it was one at the end of the year because it stayed in evidence until his trial. So after October 10th, it returned to the Louvre. There was massive amounts of people coming in to see it. Most of the Louvre was empty, and it was the only painting on display. So it was the only painting left at that time in the Louvre to be seen at the end of 1939. After that, it got taken and sent down to the Loire Valley, which then it was actually restored, which is what they should have done with Madame Lisa. They should have restored her at that time too, but they didn't. All right, I am going to take you up now to the very back part of the Louvre that nobody goes to because it is kind of tucked away. But it is one of my favorite areas. So it's the second floor of the Sully wing. So I'm going to take you up there now. We'll come and do a deep dive in this room another time, but because I'm walking through and nobody's here, I'll give you a little glimpse. These jewels in this case belong to Eugenie, who was the wife of Napoleon III. This, I think, is the real jaw dropper of everything. This amazing emerald necklace and earrings belong to Mary Louise, second wife of Napoleon, as well as this necklace here and bracelet set. These beautiful earrings belong to our girl from last week, Josephine. But this is Galerie d'Apple, one of the most beautiful rooms in the Louvre. It's a little dark in here today, but we'll come back in here. Oh, I can't miss these. The Regent diamond there in the very center. It's 140.64 metric carats. The pink one though, the Hortensia, named for the mother of Napoleon III, who's also the daughter of Josephine. That one's actually worth more. It's 21 metric carats. And this gorgeous crown, but I would disappoint people when I tell them that the jewels in there aren't real anymore. But it is such a beautiful room. But we'll go through here and I'll tell you all about someday every one of these amazing portraits that aren't actually painted. There's something else, but I'll tell you some other day. All right, now I'm up in the second floor of the saloon. And so this is where they keep the painting that was stolen. So luckily now it's behind glass, but here it is. It's tiny. It's just the size of a piece of paper, even smaller, 8 by 10. It's called Indifferent. And this is part of Watteau's paint period where he was really into the Fagallon, which I'll show you, his most famous piece. But this can't really classify. It's not really exactly it's more of a costume piece, but it is this young performer, and it's also supposed to be kind of like he's this man that's like a peacock. He's putting himself on display for the women. In his hand, he used to have this toy that was a doublot, and when Bog had taken it, he decided that wasn't originally there, that Watteau did not originally paint that there, so he actually erased it. He also had covered it, with varnish. He really did a lot of damage to it. You could see on either side there where there's it's painted on wood, but he had taken the original frame off and threw it away. We don't know where the original frame is because he didn't think that's what was belonged on there. So he took that off. It is the pendant piece of this one. It's called La Finette. Very beautiful. And this is another perfect example of Watteau's work. But this is the painting, and you could really back up. You could really see the size of it. When it was hanging, where it hung when it was stolen, it was this big painting up here at the top, which is called Autumn, was just next to it, and then the Finette was just on the other side. This was donated by Dr. Lacaze, and Dr. Lacaze, that I might have mentioned earlier, he was a very wealthy man. He was a scientist, he was a doctor. He did a lot of research on diseases and plagues that had been happening at the time. So later he just decided that the medicine and the science couldn't keep up, and so he kind of gave up. And so he spent the most of his time collecting things. His collection, he decided to, in 1848, to give it to the Louvre, and it came into the collection in 1869, and it is still to this day the largest collection ever given to a French museum. It was 583 paintings. At the time, the Louvre only had one Watteau, and after that, they had quite the collection. And if you look here, it's a boucher that was from him. But if you look on these plaques, all of them will say Louis Lacaze. And so the collection is everything in this, every single thing in this case, except for one painting, was his collection. Of those 583, but 272 are in the Louvre, and the rest of them are all kind of spread out through French museums. I'll take you in here to show you one of his most famous. His very, oh, they moved it to this other side. How amazing is this? His most famous painting is being restored right now. It's going to be in part of a special exhibition. It's going to be in one of the small rooms here. But this is the Voyage de Citer, and this is where they believe that Venus was born. And he did this, and it's supposed to be all the different stages of courting, love, marriage. So you see, it's very sweet. And Debussy used to come into the Louvre and see this all the time and wrote an entire sonnet about it. But this is the most famous painting that he did, Pierrot, and it is being restored. And that exhibit's supposed to open at the end of the year. And they're just kind of like the Van Eyck one they're doing right now, which is really amazing. They restored the Van Eyck. It's absolutely beautiful. It's only on display for the exhibit, but it's always in the Louvre. So it'll be just within the collection soon. And the exhibit's really interesting because then they fed into it about what else it had influenced and what influenced him. It's really fantastic. But this painting has quite the history, and it entails two women we have talked about on the podcast. Two favorite women, and the first one was, it was 1729. It was about 1716, 1717 when they painted this, when he painted this, and we don't have a lot of information. A lot of the information about Doho is very scattered, and he didn't keep a lot of notes about things, and so it's a lot of the stuff about his life is all a lot of guessing. But he did move to Paris. He was born in Valenciennes, which is down in the south. That's part of Spain. And he moved to France, and he came to Paris, and he was living actually on the Pont Notre Dame and working there. And he was actually a sign painter for a long time, and even did scenery for the opera. But he has a pretty huge collection, and he died at the number, good old 36 years old in Nogent-sur-Marne, just not very far from Paris, where you could also find pieces of the Le Havre. And so, but this painting, it was purchased in 1729 by Jean-Baptiste Massé, and then it was bought in 1768 by a gentleman named Marquis de Marigny, and he was the brother of Madame de Pompadour, and she, of course, was the love and mistress of Louis XV, but she is the one who really imparted a ton about French history and culture onto the people, including collecting huge amounts of paintings, learning how to etch stones. She brought in literature and everything. So but then in 1806, it was bought by a man named Jean-Baptiste Lebrun, who was the husband of Vigée Lebrun, who we love, Vigée Lebrun. And she was the one who did the painting of Marie Antoinette. But this whole part of the Louvre, the second floor, are basically in the south, the very farthest east corner. But as you can see, as we walk through here, nobody is here, but it's all chronological, and this is all French paintings. So we go through the Rococo, we just keep going, and you've got some amazing pieces way down here, and you will notice not very many people come here. This is the Chardin, who was one of the greatest still life painters in French history. These painting monkeys always make me laugh. This painting right here by Jean-Francois de Troyes is a sketch. The final version of this painting is at the Château de Chantilly. This is the very first time champagne was painted into a painting. And you can see how kind of round the bottles are. Very different looking. They've got, it's great. And it's at that time, the original champagne glasses did not have a base on it, so you just had to hold it. I love these paintings too. But if I go into every one of these paintings, which I could do, we'll be here for hours. But this little secret room, this right here is where they used to have the pastel collection. I have not seen that since long before COVID. But this little kind of hidden room here, where they kind of created this, this is where they're actually restoring the big pieces. So when they did the Delacroix, including Liberty, this is where they restored it back here. So they kind of made this, because the paintings that are too large, they have to, they can't get them down the elevators. My shoes are really squeaky in here. Look at these. Boucher. We did start going into Boucher and Fragonard. There's Diderot. This lovely lady is the mother of Alexander Lenoir, who is, of course, the gentleman that saved all of the monuments during the Revolution. This is Fragonard and his little collection of friends that he kind of made these fantasy paintings of different performers. This Hubert Robert is in this room, and he is the one that did paintings of the Louvre. Look at, there's the OG, as I showed you last week, out at Malmaison. That is the Diane de Versailles. Here is the Grand Gallery, but the Grand Gallery, when he painted this, did not look like this. The ceiling was flat. There was no windows on there, on the top. There's only windows on the side. And because he did this painting, he reimagined the Louvre, and this is how they changed the Louvre. So when you go through Grand Gallery, as we did earlier, you'll see all the windows on the top, and that's because of Hubert Robert and the aforementioned Vigée Lebrun did a painting of him. This one. There he is right there. And here's another one he did of the Grand Gallery, and that's him there painting. But when I come in here by myself and I have no direct thing I'm going to specifically do and see, which is most of the time, I will just come up here and just wander through, and I always find something new. This is, of course, Vigée Lebrun. This is a self-portrait that she did of herself with her daughter, Julie. In Notre Dame. These are huge 18th century paintings. Some of these belong to another woman that came along after Pompidou, Madame du Barry. I love that Three Graces, but you want to know what drives me crazy? This. So I walk through the Louvre, straightening benches, fixing signs. I love this painting so much. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one about Fichet and Cupid, because it's this way. Doing them this way, I could record pieces, but I'm going to do one where I tell you the whole story of Fichet and Cupid in art, because I could tell the entire story through the art in the Louvre, but you can't do it in order because I'd be running from one side to the other. But this is a beautiful painting by François Gérard, and Gérard actually lived in the Louvre for a short period of time, but this is the point at the beginning when he sees Cupid keeps seeing Fichet, or Psyche, and he thinks she's beautiful, and he comes in and he kisses her. He also comes into every night to her bed, but he kisses her on the forehead, but she actually, she feels him, but she just feels this sensation. She doesn't know it's actually him. And at the top you see a butterfly, because Fichet, spoiler alert, will become a goddess, and she becomes the goddess of the soul, which is represented by a butterfly. And this room right here is one of my all-time favorites. It's all these portraits, and it's from the School of David. Some of these are done by Jacques-Louis David, like this lovely couple where he was in charge of the mint. You have my guy there, Alexandre Lenoir. But like this one, he's just a hunter. How gorgeous is this painting? It's by Giraudet, who also lived in the Louvre. How stunning. I reckon I love him. And you have General Napoleon. And then you have his second wife, Mary Louise, right there. But look at, but I really want to show you that one where the gentleman is. That one, Madeleine, is, let's see, this is one of the most beautiful paintings in the Louvre. We did a whole episode about her, Marie Benoit. I'll move since he's kind of loud. But that is the very first painting of a portrait of a black model. And the Orsay did this amazing exhibit years ago, gosh, like 2017, 2018, called The Black Model. And they went through paintings like Olympia by Manet and a bunch of other ones, Jericho's, The Raft of the Medusa, all these paintings, and did research on them to see who these models actually were. And they found that her name was Madeleine. But the painting still says a black model, which I respect that they keep the names. I think you should keep the name as what the artist intended for it, but I think in the little paragraph on the plaque, they could do that. And one day I came in here, somebody had written Madeleine on the plaque in pencil, and then when I came back a couple of weeks later, they had changed out the plaque. You have ombre here. with these amazing paintings he did of the saints, and he actually used some of the Valois as for the caricatures of the saints, and these were created to make stained glass windows. And this is the Jericho room. Very sad that the sketch he did of Raft of the Medusa is not on display right now. Oh, and then everything I do comes back to him. Here is the Delacroix room. On the left you have Delacroix. The large paintings are not Delacroix at the very top, but these are all Delacroix. You have the sketch of the death of Sardanapalus. And then you have him right over here on the right. That's right here. This side of the room is Théodore Chassereau, sorry, who was influenced by my man. Here he is. And Chopin. This was a painting he actually did for Chopin and George Sand when they were together, and then they broke up and George made him cut him in half. They're back. So these are Chassereau. The painting of Chassereau is not here, but this is his two sisters. It's just so gorgeous. So he was really inspired by Ingres at first and studied with Ingres, and then he discovered Delacroix and completely changed his style. So he went from the neoclassical to the Orientalist. I'm just going to walk you through the end of the room. Then we're going to go outside and I'll show you where Bog took the painting and where he worked on restoring it for 2 months. You see, as you can see, nobody's here, and it is a little after 10 a.m. now. These next 3 rooms are fantastic. They hold a collection of Etienne Moreau-Nératon, who I'm obsessed with. You have this second sketch of the Raft of the Medusa. But over here is one of the most beautiful paintings Delacroix ever did. This one, hopefully you can get the, oh, look at her eyes. It's the Orphan Girl. He painted this in 1824. Oh, love it. But these little rooms right in a row are all dedicated to collectors. This is also where the Louvre ends. So in this room you have Millet, you have Watteau, you have painters in here, and even Delacroix that you also find in the Musée d'Orsay, because the Louvre ends at 1848, and then it goes to the Orsay. So, but if you come here and if you kind of look, or maybe after you rewind this and kind of just look from where I started at Watteau and look, you do see the progression of how styles are changing, and you also start to see the influence that they'll have over Impressionism in these rooms. All right, guys, let's head outside and I'll show you where he lived and where he took the painting, and a few fun things along Rue Saint-Saëns. So this is the carousel entrance. Also, it's the exit. But this isn't even, this is maybe the, not even the middle of the line. This is how far it goes. And people are not moving. So don't come down here unless you come very early, 15, 20 minutes before the Louvre opens to get in line, because a lot of the times and throughout the day it will actually keep going as it is and stretches all the way around here, all the way down as far as you can see, and then around again. And those people here in line will take about an hour to get in. If you went up to the pyramid, you'd be in within 10 minutes. Okay, we're down here on Rue Saint-Honoré now, in the first. And of course, as soon as I got here, this massive truck pulls up right where I need to be. But here it is, room, the number 203. So here Says level. He lived on the top floor, which actually looks like a pretty swanky address now with 2 porches. But he lived here at number 203, and this is where he was living when he took the painting, and he worked on it here for 2 months. Just very close to the Louvre. We're going to walk down to the front of Palais Royal, the Place Colette, and I'll show you just how close we are to the Louvre. We are also very close to the beautiful Église Saint-Roch, which is a beautiful church here. And Saint-Honoré, there used to be a convent here, and there used to be a church dedicated to Saint-Honoré. And Saint-Honoré is the most delicious of all the saints, because Saint-Honoré was the patron saint of bakers. When he was young, he wanted to, he had told his nanny that he was going to be a saint, but he was a baker, and she said, "Oh, you're crazy." And she said, she says, if you plant that peel, which is the big long wooden kind of, I guess, spatula you could kind of call it, and you use those, like, you see them in pizza ovens and bread ovens. He said, if you plant that here and a plant grows out of it, then maybe. And he did, and that's exactly what happened. So you can see the end of the Pavillon de Flore. So where the Pavillon de Flore is, way down there on the other side of Joan of Arc, that is very close to where the painting was. So we can't, so that part of it's no longer a part of the museum, as I mentioned, but you can't get out that door either. But we're really a couple blocks away. So because there's so much going on with the Olympics, and Place de la Concorde is closed, the Rue Saint-Honoré and the Avenue de l'Opéra they're just choke points at this stage when it comes to traffic. Again, it's still pretty early in the morning, so it's not, it's just kind of starting to be rush hour. It's about 10:30, so this is when really everything starts waking up. This is a beautiful building here, 1903. There was, I believe, for a while underneath it, some sort of a special club. A very special club, if you understand what I mean. I have not been there. Also, anytime something doesn't open till 10 p.m. at night, you're not going to find me there anyway. But this building here, number 270, this is where Alain de Gorges lived. And she was an amazing woman. She was born in 1748, and she was a widow when she was just 18 years old. And she realized that as a widow back then, like our wonderful Madame Clicquot, you had more rights as a widow. So she said, I'm never going to get married again. She was a playwright, and she started a theater company that only had women in it. And she wrote the rights of women in response to the rights of men. And then she was killed with the guillotine. Vivienne Westwood, if you need some shoes. We all know it's not where I get mine. This is a really cute and amazing little cafe that's like stepping back in time. It looks like something in Amélie. It's a really wonderful too. And not a lot of people go there, so I'd skip this horrendous, ugly, fake flower monstrosity. Tell you how I really feel about that. And I'd hit the other one because it's way more authentic. It's nice though that they put these flowers on these buildings, because this way you can now easily spot a tourist trap, meaning the food's not going to be very great and the prices are very expensive because they have to pay for those ugly flowers. And we'll walk through a few more of them along the way home. There's one to our left. They're actually putting in a law about these. Here's some more. Just gross. I've always hated fake flowers though, long before this happened. But we'll end in front of one of my favorite cafes that there is. Here, over here on the wall, you also have a little plaque to another one of our favorites, a Jeanne d'Arc, Joan of Arc, because it was right here that the siege of Paris. So there's a little plaque there for her. It's very strange today. It's chilly out, but I went into the Louvre and it was, especially on the second floor, so hot and muggy. Comédie Française. But see, this is really, I mean, you could take a right there and you could go right into the carousel. So we are very close to the Louvre. The top of the... So they I was looking last night and there is, there's been all the work on the outside of the Opera House, which everybody hates because it's such a beautiful building and we miss seeing it, but you're probably gonna hate this even more, that 2 years, a little over 2 years, end of 2026, start of 2027, they're gonna do a restoration on the inside, which means it's gonna be closed for probably a couple years. So if you're coming to Paris and then this year or next, make sure you pop into the Opera House. They're also going to do some work on the Opera Bastille, which is more contemporary building and where they actually have the opera. This, what most people call the Opera Garnier, the Palais Garnier, is where they do ballet. I'll walk you into the... There's a lot of people in uniforms. Some things going on today. Some little... This also has the Ministry of Culture is in the Palais Royal. You have the greatest cafe, Le Numour, my favorite. But yesterday I came by here after I was at the Bibliothèque Nationale, and right when I sat down, it started raining. I didn't have an umbrella. Oh, something's going on, so everything's closed off. I didn't have an umbrella, so my guys gave me one. So we could poke our head in here, but it is closed off. Oh, I'm thinking that's Paris. So yeah, something's going on here. Today, thus all the people in uniforms. All right, guys. Well, I am actually at home. I'm gonna go home, and I've got a few things that I'm gonna take a little video of. Some really cool things about the painting. I found a magazine that was published right after the theft and has a great little map, and so I can show you that, and also a picture of the painting. So I'm gonna add that to this as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I won't be having one next Sunday because I have clients, and even if I could record something early, I wouldn't be able to be there live with you to chat. So we'll come back in another week, and I'm gonna have another one that I was going to do this week, but I ran out of time, so we're gonna do that in 2 weeks. But make sure you check in. If you're a Patreon, I'm gonna start doing some little videos and uploading them for you there as well, of things I see during the week. But so make sure you join my Patreon if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. But thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and Father's Day, since today is Father's Day in both France and the US. So have a wonderful Sunday and Father's Day, and I will see you soon. Okay guys, I'm back home now. And I wanted to share this with you. So this is a fantastic magazine. It was published from 1843 to 1944. They had to stop publishing during the occupation, but they tried to revive it, but it never worked. But it's this really fantastic magazine. And I found this one morning walking down to Notre Dame about a year ago, and it was being sold at one of the bouquinistes. I think I got it for like €3 or something. But it was published the 1st of July, 1939. And you see on the cover, you see the painting. And it's about the disappearance from the Musée du Louvre on the 11th of June, 1939. And inside, it has a story. So when we went in, when I took you in there on the video, this is, you could see how it was hanging. There it is on the right. And this is back in part of the Louvre that we actually can't get to now. But how great is that? And then here is a little map. So, of course, the building's still the same, but none of that is laid out that way anymore. So this is now, in the back section here is where you have Italian, and then about right in the center of it, it changes over to Spanish paintings, and the Spanish, and there's Goya and El Greco. But it's a really great part of the Louvre that not many people go to. But how great is this magazine? And there's even, because it was 1939, there's, look at this. There is a crown, or a piece of the crown of thorns in there. Saint Louis. But, and then of course when I find these things, and I'm like, I need to find every issue ever. I need them all. Oh, look at this. Look at young Elizabeth. Very cool. Oh, so amazing. I would, oops. I wish we could still have things. Oh, look at, here's some. Let's bring back the feathers, shall we? So great. All right, I just wanted to share that. Secrets Balto. I should give that to my friend Balto. Look at Grey Poupon. Remember when you saw those commercials as a kid and how fancy you felt like you were? Poland. Look at the Les Invalides. 1939.